Hello, my name's Loraine. I'm a compulsive overeater.
Hi, Loraine.
Hello. I weigh and measure my food. I report it to my sponsor. I don't eat between meals no matter what, and abstinence is the most important thing in my life. I'm really honored to be asked to speak, and it's interesting because we're recording this meeting, and how I found Gray Sheet was a recorded meeting on YouTube. So isn't that interesting? My Eskimo was the Southwest Group YouTube channel. And for people who haven't been in program for a long time, Eskimos are the people who bring you in from the cold. You're in the cold and they bring you in out of your addiction for help. And what happened for me was, I'm going to jump around a little bit because part of like what I've been taught when you speak is it's what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And 2/3 of that is a positive message, right? And so try and break that down into thirds. But this disease hit me with a vengeance when I was 41. I'd had my third child. I could not get rid of the baby weight, and the physical symptoms hit. And I had dieted my whole life on and off. I especially liked the diets that were high volume diets. Those are the best because there's no limitation on how much you can eat. Those are like the high protein, low carb diets. Yum, yum. You know? Like, hello, lots of meat. Yes. And I had a lot of success with those in my 30s. And I had to because I was on TV. And they don't put fat people on TV. Maybe one. And her name's, we know, and she's famous and she's done very well. But mostly in my business, they don't put you on if you're heavy. So I learned that fast. And so every time I'd have a child, I'd hit the diet scene. And but when I turned 41, it just didn't work. And what had happened was I had luckily, praise higher power, I had gotten clean and sober years and years and years ago. So that was not one of my issues. But one of my bigger unseen, untold issues was I was a compulsive overeater, but I couldn't admit it. And I got so desperate, I couldn't run after my 3-year-old in the park. I couldn't keep up. He would outrun me everywhere. And that was like a wake-up call to me. And it brought me into a food program that was not this one. And what happened in that food program, which was great, was I eventually realized I was a compulsive overeater. I could not do it. You know, they say in the big book, and I'm going to paraphrase, you know, when we tried to enjoy our food, we couldn't control it. When we tried to control it, we couldn't enjoy it. And I totally was right in there with that. I could not control my food and enjoy it. And I started going to these meetings, and I would call people and ask them if they thought I was an overeater. Mm-hmm. And the best thing that happened to me there was somebody said, "Are you overweight?" And I was like, "Yes." And they said, "Okay, then you're eating too much." And that helped me. It just helped me to start to begin to surrender. In that program, I went up and down, up and down, up and down in my weight. I never got a plan that I could work with, I guess. You know, and this goes back years. I mean, I had so many plans for my food, you know. I mean, when I was young, I would plan to eat this, and it would turn into that, and it would turn into a meal, a snack, meal, snack, meal. You know, my plans did not work out with food. My thinking did not work out with food. And that kind of continued for me a bit in this food program. And I had a sponsor, and I had a plan that you could get that was very vague. And vagueness is a real problem for me with food, because being vague about food is my way of becoming a liar about food, you know? And I'm a good liar. I'm a real good liar about food. I lie to myself, I lie to other people. And what I learned eventually was that it wasn't working. And I took a trip to Hawaii, and I had lost weight in that program. I'd gained weight in that program. And by the time I got to the end of that program, I was 45 pounds heavier than I am right now. And I was desperate. And I have pictures somewhere, but where I kind of cut off my head in one of them or something. But I got to Hawaii, and I was looking at the menu in a restaurant, and I didn't know what to eat. And I was looking out at the view, and I couldn't see it. I mean, I just wasn't there. My there wasn't there, and I was desperate and sad. And I started asking, what really is an abstinent meal? And this is after I'd been 6 years in this food program, okay? And I found somebody making an abstinent meal on YouTube, and they showed me. You weigh, you measure it, you eat it, and then you stop. That was an abstinent meal. I was like, oh, wow. And so out of that, I found this YouTube channel with you guys talking about how you do abstinence. And I was like, what? You guys actually write down what you're going to eat, and then you eat that, and then you don't eat between meals? What are you talking about? Get out of town. So I picked up the phone, and I called someone, and I got somebody here in LA, and I said, I'm ready to start. And she said, you can start once you get here, and we give you a gray sheet. And I was like, what? I need to do it now. I'm ready. And she was like, you can start when you get here, because the gray sheet comes with a human, It's a package deal. And so I didn't do what she advised me to do, and I started because I found it online. Well, in that time, I detoxed without any help. I got into a motorcycle accident, and I had incredible mood swings. But then I came in here, and I just cried the whole meeting. And I met somebody who was speaking, and they had my story. They had kids. They had a husband. They had a compulsive overeating. And that is when I got a gray sheet, a physical gray sheet. She sat down with me. She explained it to me. I said, I'm going to go eat this for breakfast. And she goes, we don't eat that. And I was like, we don't eat that? That's what I've been eating on the gray sheet for the 2 weeks prior, right? Because I have no business starting with this without somebody in this program. And I have a friend in program that says, illness begins with I and wellness begins with we. And this is such a we program because, food is out there. Food is everywhere. And when I stop drinking, I put down the alcohol. I can't put down the food, but I can put down the sugar. I can put down the grains. I can put down the starches. And I did not realize what a damn allergy I have to these items until I met you guys, okay? Because in the other programs, we're not taught that. And in fact, in the liquid program, we're taught, saddle up to the sugar and be sure and have some caffeine with that, So you're like, you're shaky and angry, but you're sober. And I appreciate that program because it saved my life. But I was not taught anything about how to handle food in that program. And then when I got to another food program, I wasn't taught about the allergies. I was not taught about that. And of course, the sugar and the grains in alcohol, John Barleycorn, completely align with the sugar and the grains in life. And when you finally remove those from your sphere, you suddenly have this freedom to choose life, and I mean, I think, I used to feed my addiction and I didn't know it. I was feeding my addiction while I was in program. And even though I was doing the spiritual work, I was doing steps, I was reading the books, I was doing all that. I was still feeding my physical addiction, and nobody explained that to me. And I got so hopeless because I was like, I'm doing everything you're telling me to do, and I can't keep the weight off, and I can't keep the weight out of my head. Because that was the worst, really. What they say, we came for the vanity and we stayed for the sanity. The weight between my two ears about the hopelessness about what I was going to eat next before I got into this program. I mean, it wasn't even the hopelessness of a month out. It was a hopelessness about what snack I was going to grab that I knew was bad for me. And I didn't understand that. I couldn't believe God didn't have a solution for me because I've always believed in higher power. I believe that there are solutions. And really, when I got into a total surrender in Hawaii, God told me to get on the computer and start looking around. And God brought me this program because I didn't know anything about Gratian except that it had been a food plan in another program. That's all I knew. I had no idea you guys were a group. And you guys are beyond a group. I mean, hello. It's a program that really, it feeds your body, it feeds your soul. I mean, I can keep feeding myself these delicious, beautiful meals now. And I mean, if you're new and you're not familiar with this program, we eat a lot of food in this program, and it's delicious, and it's deliciously prepared, and we have big bowls. We got big bowls. Yeah, we got big bowls. You know, it could be a wrap. I mean, I have big bowls to take in all my food. And like, so at breakfast, I'll make a point to have a big bowl and a big breakfast. At lunch, if I really need that oomph, if I need that comfort, I can have more delicious food. It's up to us. And you know, every day, I work with my sponsor. I go to meetings. I connect with other people. I'll text. I'll say hello, because we need each other. Like it was said earlier in this program, there's a few of us, but we're badasses, man, because we're walking around with big billboards of food. We're going out to restaurants where they put platters of food that should serve 25 people, and there's only 5 at a table. I mean, we're badasses that we can continue to stay abstinent in the face of our lives, advertising, our culture, and our addiction. And now, I'm graced. It's not all perfect, and I'm moody. I'm not all calm all the time. I do try to meditate and pray on a daily basis and surrender. I have 3 beautiful children. I have a husband. I have a life. I have a career. I have a stressful career. And I'm not calm all the time, and I'm kind of a spaz. It doesn't matter. You can come to the table being any way you want in this program. You don't have to be a certain personality type. You don't have to have self-discipline. I mean, it's so funny to me. People say, "You're so disciplined." No, I'm not. I'm surrendered. I am surrendered. And they don't teach you that in diet programs. They don't. And God does for us what we can't do for ourselves. And I have surrendered, and I have been granted grace, and I believe in grace, and I believe accepting where I'm at allowed me to get here. That taking that full-on first step of having no absolute control over my food, God came to me and whispered in my ear and said, "You need to find a better solution," and I did, and you're it. And so if this is your last house on the block, as we say, open the door and come on in. Gray Sheet is here. We are here for you. We are the last house on the block if you have no other solutions with your food. And we are welcoming, and we're just as far away, as close as a phone call, the internet, or text me. So that's it. Thank you.